comes to the traditional EverQuest progression server route that people take to leveling, there is sort of a defined path that most people will take, regardless if they're leveling up in a pickup group or within a static group. That's generally going to be your starter dungeon, and then from there you're going to go straight to Unrest. Then from Unrest, you're going to go to Upper Guck to Lower Guck to the Hole. Then you're going to go straight into raiding for the Classic era. And as soon as Kunark drops, you're going straight to Karnor's Castle, and from there you're either going to be leveling in Sebelis or Chardok all the way until you get to the cap, and then you're going straight into raiding for that tier. But is there another path? Can you do other things? Because if you've done every single progression server like I have, you tend to get a little bit bored with taking that traditional path and you want to do something different. So this time around on the Yellowknack server, our static group got it in their heads that when Kunark dropped, we wanted to do an experiment. We wanted to roll a set of Iksar characters, take them from level 1 to 60 only in Kunark, and never leave the continent, never leave that island. Is it possible? What's that going to look like? Well, as of this recording, which is happening on the 12th of August, 2022, our characters are sitting outside of Karnor's castle. We got here last weekend. I believe that was the fourth weekend of our characters playing, and we are leveling through here. We're probably going to be here the next couple of sessions, which means this upcoming weekend we'll be here, and then beyond this, we're going to go explore other things. What does that look like? How does this work? That's what we're diving into today. I'm Tim Anderson, otherwise known as Renfell, sometimes known as the Bearded Dwarven Princess, and today we're talking EverQuest. Now, the interesting thing about Kunark is if you look at, Kunark as a whole, it's the first expansion that ever dropped for the game. And if you look at the description text over on the official wiki, it talks about Kunark being a continent of ancient ruins and hostile lands. Records tell tales of empires lost to time, their ruined cities and hidden tombs still filled with treasures. The evil hand of Khazak-Thul touched this land and spawned the Iksar, a powerful reptilian race. Once the predominatory force, they now strive to rise from the ashes and reclaim their glory. The creatures in Kunark are quite formidable, and regard all as invaders. Only the elven outpost of Firianovi offers safe haven for adventurers. There is no place for the weak. It's not exactly true because the Over There also exists as an outpost. So if you're coming here and it's your first time, you're either going to be coming here to Fury and Ovi if you're from a good aligned race, or if you are coming here as an evil aligned race from the original game, you'll be going to the outpost and the Over There. Now, starting off as an Iksar was something I had never done before. When the game was in its live format, I only ever had one Iksar alt, and that was around the time that the Lost Dungeons of Norrath expansion came out. I was in my like seventh or eighth alt by that point, and I remember leveling up and just twinked to hell and back. I had an Iksar monk, and I leveled him up specifically because I was doing a static group with some friends to do the LDON dungeons. And so I didn't really do much of Kunark. I just went, I leveled up and immediately went to Field of Bone. Once I got through Field of Bone, I was off and out to the things. Now, when the expansion first launched, I did spend quite a bit of time here with my ranger. But the way I used to play the game many, many years ago, and also because the game was so slow in terms of leveling, um, we spent a lot of time um, having leveled our characters up off of Kunark. And so when we came to Kunark, we weren't capped. We weren't at the cap yet in the launch base game because we were taking so long because we were doing a lot of role play and still figuring out the game and exploring. And so we were not actually level 50 when Kunark dropped. So Kunark for us provided us with quite a bit to explore because we still had a wide array of zones to look at. So I remember coming in here with the character that I was playing at the time, and we just went straight to the Lake of Ilomin. And then from there, I remember going to the Over There, and from the Over There, then we went to like the Dreadlands, and we did some dungeons in between with the Frontier Mountains, Giant Forts, and so on and so forth. But it was really just kind of Karnor's Castle, and maybe a couple times into Sebelis, and then Velius was out. We didn't do raiding when it was during Kunark. We didn't actually start raiding until Velius dropped back in the day, and so it took me quite some time to actually have a chance to explore Kunark as it was meant to be explored many, many years later. Of course, now I'm coming in P99 and we're doing this for the first time. So I had dabbled a little bit in Kunark, but I had never actually gone whole hog into Kunark. Now, if you look at Kunark, there's quite a few zones. This is the map from the official game, but what I really want to dive into is looking at if you go to like the P99 wiki, all these zones that are available, and then the raid content on top of it, which is something that I'm not intimately familiar with, but it exists for those who want to. But really, what we're going to be diving into with this video is talking about, can you level 1 to 60 on Kunark, and what does that look like? Now, before we get to that point, this is my call to action moment, ladies and gentlemen. So first and foremost, if you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you can continue to get updates like this delivered to you in the future. If you want to follow along the adventures of our Iksar characters, we are currently playing every Saturday and Sunday morning from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. on these Iksar characters, as well as Monday evenings from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. We have a static group who have all rolled Iksar. There is one exception because we really needed an enchanter. I just think that in this game you can't do it without an enchanter. You have to have an enchanter, and unfortunately Iksar cannot be an enchanter, so we had to have an outsider with us. So we have an individual who has joined us as an enchanter, but we forgive them because they can use illusions and make themselves appear more beautiful than their original race would be in the first place. So check those out. If you want to support the channel, you can always do so with a super thanks on videos like these. There's a button down there. You just hit it. There's a pre-programmed amount, or you can choose your own. $2, $5. Buy me a cup of coffee. Buy me a Ferrari. It's kind of up to you. I'll take either or. And of course, I live stream every single day from about 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central, and from 5 p.m. onwards each night, playing lots of different ways beyond just EverQuest. And when I'm live streaming, you can always do a super thanks, a super chat, or a sticker on those videos to support the channel and my content creation journey. You can also join as a member of the Adventurers Guild down there. Click that button to join our membership here. And you can also check out patreon.com/wandering hermits if you want to check out my game dev stuff with my brother and my wife, 5th edition tabletop setting, point and click adventure game, and a book series. And now that we've gotten that out of the way, which hopefully you've enjoyed all this stuff because we've done a lot of EverQuest content to this point, let's get back to talking about Kunark. Now, the P99 wiki has a great list here. It's their recommended levels and Zim list. Now, I don't really give a shit about the Zim. Most people do. Remember that leveling route that I talked about at the beginning of the video where I say most people do these zones? That's because they're looking at the experience bonus, which is known as the Zim. Um, and they're looking at that modifier, and they're going to go the places that they get the most XP because most people who are playing are on that path to, for some odd reason or another, level to max as quickly as possible. In many cases, it's because people have done this content before and they don't want to necessarily spend all that time doing it, because what they really want to do is they want to get to the raid content, because a lot of people didn't necessarily get to raid as easily as they can today back in the day, because things are obviously different on TLP, and so the difficulty's been tweaked a little bit. The P99 wiki isn't 100% accurate as to what's on the TLP, but it does represent fairly accurately what's available. So when you start looking at Kunark, you can go 1 to 60 without ever leaving the island easily. And so when we started mapping out our third set of characters on Yellowknack, the decision to just go to Kunark and play on Kunark and go all the way to 60 was pretty easy, because we knew that we could do it without paying attention to the Zim or the experience modifiers. We just had to pick the zones that we wanted to see and go from there. By the way, I should also say that coming up in the future, if we stick around long enough, hopefully we do, we're having a lot of fun with our static group. But the idea is that once this server gets to Luklin, we're going to be rolling an all kitty group. I think they're called the Volshir, if I remember correctly. But we're going to roll an all kitten group, and we're going to level up exclusively in Luklin all the way to cap. So that should be a fun experiment as well. So don't forget to check that out, because when we get to that point, it's going to be quite fun. We're not going to be doing that for Velius, though. We're going to be playing. Some of us are going to just be picking one of the characters we've leveled up, because we have 3 sets of characters at this point. We'll be picking one of those characters as a playthrough character that's going to go through Velius and be the character that we take into Luklin as well. Anyway, let's get back to this, because I'm sidetracking now. So obviously we started off in Kabbalist and immediately went to the Field of Bone, and then from the Field of Bone we went from there into Kern's Tower, and then from Kern's Tower we played quite a little bit, and then we went from there straight to the Crypt of Dalnir. You'll notice that I'm jumping here because we're choosing to do dungeons because we are a static group. So we don't have to do soloing or duoing. We have a full group of 6 players. We meet up every weekend. It's pretty cool being able to have that because it allows us to stick to dungeons and be able to sort of challenge ourselves with content that is perfect for a group of our size. Now, we've had a few wipes. It's not been easy. But in any case, started off, did some Field of Bone, went from there straight into Kern's Tower. Then from Kern's Tower, went into the Crypt of Dalnir. Now, from the Crypt of Dalnir, we then went to Kaosora. And once we got to Kaosora, we dipped our toes into the Temple of Droga. We skipped the Mines of Nurga. We did a session in the Temple of Droga. And then we went from there straight to Karnor's Castle. Now, we anticipate staying in Karnor's Castle for at least this upcoming weekend. We did 2 sessions this last weekend. We're going to be doing at least 3 sessions coming up. We're going to be doing the Saturday and Sunday that's right around the corner, which is tomorrow and Sunday, and then Monday night. And then I think once we've done those 3 sessions, we may be in the mid 50s. And regardless, we're probably going to be looking at where we go after that. Now, we've talked about trying to get the keys to get to Howling Stones. But the problem with the keys to Howling Stones is that that's a really big getting keyed for Howling Stones is not something that's easy. It's very time consuming. Because we're only playing those weekend sessions, with the Monday night being sort of a hit and miss one, we've been trying to stick to stuff where we're not necessarily getting keyed. But anyway, if we don't go to Howling Stones, so we're just going to be going straight to Chardock and Old Sebelis and skipping between those two and leveling. Um, but I would estimate that at some point we'll probably be dropping into the City of Mist, um, somewhere in there. I don't know though because we chose to go to Karnor's Castle. And Karnor's Castle and City of Mist basically have the same kind of cap out. We don't have a rogue in our party, so we can't get past some of the locked doors in City of Mist, which is why we chose to just go straight to to Karnor's Castle. Um, but in any case, we're already in our. I think my character. Let me go look real quick. I think I'm. Um, what level am I? I'm 41, so that's lower than I remembered being. So we just we're on the low end of what you can be in Karnors. So we still have quite a bit to get to 60. We're gonna be here. Uh, who knows? I mean, another probably, if I had to estimate, I'd say another 2 months to get to cap. Because we're not playing, hugely progressive. We're just doing those weekend sessions, but we are using group pots every time we play, and that does speed things up quite a bit. But because we're not in a rush with these set of characters, we're able to go in and sort of do what we want at our own pace and not be able to worry about what other people are doing or anything like that. And the nice thing about doing a static group that we've been doing is we've been able to go off the beaten path and see dungeons that most people would never get to see. Like the looking at this list and thinking about, when we went to Crypto Down there was one other group there, Kaosora. I think there was actually no other groups in Kaosora. There was just a Necro running around and doing things. Um, or that might have been the Temple of Droga. I forget. Yeah, it was the Temple of Droga. Temple of Droga, there was one person running around, and that was it. Kaosora, there was actually another group in there. Not Dreadlands, sorry. Karnar's Castle has by far been the most populated, but that's because that's on the hot zone list of places that people have to go to. And so every time we've gone in there, there's been at least 3 to 4 instances available. And so we've just been, I mean, we've done a couple sessions at the very beginning. We just started the entry at level 39 and went straight to one of the towers on the right side. And we've camped there for 2 sessions. Excuse me. It's early morning, ladies and gentlemen. So in any case, can you do Kunark level 1 to 60 and only do Kunark 1 to 60? Yeah, you totally can. We're doing it. We're having a lot of fun doing it. And it's kind of challenging being an all Iksar group and having to be very specific about the classes that we could play. We have some overlay. We have 2 Iksar Necromancers, a monk, a Shadow Knight, myself as the Shaman, and then, of course, our friend of ours who's playing the Enchanter, who's from a different place because he's not as cool as us, but it still works. And you got to have an enchanter. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where you have to have an enchanter, otherwise you're locked out of doing certain content. There's just certain content you can't do without an enchanter. So it is what it is. In any case, hopefully you enjoyed. Don't forget to follow along with our adventures. Check Kunark out at your leisure. Happy adventuring in Norrath, ladies and gentlemen. Hiss.